AMD stock investors are pretty happy today as the stock is up roughly 5.4%. In the past 5 days, the stock is up over 6%, and in the past month, the stock is up over 14%. There are two topics that I want to discuss, actually, a few topics, but the two main topics that we're seeing is we did see a firm increase their stake or add a stake of AMD into their firm. And the second thing we're also going to take a closer look in today's episode is there was an analyst who kind of shared some insight within the PC market. Obviously, the PC market is very big for a company like AMD. And I do believe both these things, plus a few other leaks and topics that I have or found online here, are something that AMD investors might want to pay attention to. So let's take a closer look in today's episode. So the first topic is going to be one that's very quick. There was a firm called Third Point that did add AMD into their portfolio. There were other tech companies that they added, for example, Alibaba and Alphabet that we can see here. But it does seem like a lot of reports do believe that this is one of the main reasons that AMD stock is up. I want to say there's a lot of everything happening within the market right now. It's hard to say what's necessarily driving the stock, but that obviously can be seen as a bullish case. So the second reason, we did have an analyst from Bernstein kind of give some updates to the PC market. There were a bit of bearish and bullish case in the remarks, and I kind of have some of them pinpointed. So let me explain a little bit of what's happening. So first, they do mention that unfortunately, right, when we take a closer look at the PC shipments, they did decrease by nearly 30% versus a year ago in the first quarter. But they do mention that this is mainly because they are compared to very elevated levels during the pandemics. But they do mention that they align very close to pre-COVID quarter one levels. So the PC market is looking very, very healthy, or it's not maybe very healthy, but it's looking healthy compared to pre-COVID levels. And in my opinion, that's a great thing. They do mention that the decline is now less severe with signs of some stabilization, like I mentioned, to pre-COVID levels, and they do believe that in the third or fourth quarter, some form of improvement is definitely plausible. Unfortunately, though, we have heard from a lot of semiconductor companies like AMD, like Intel, and even others outside of the processor market that the correction or this inventory correction is definitely improving, but it's happening at a slower pace than they originally anticipated. So those are kind of the bearish case, that while in the bullish case the recovery is happening and we might have hit the bottom already, on the bearish side the recovery is taking a lot slower than or is going to be a lot slower than previously anticipated, because these inventory corrections are taking a lot longer than expected. So I want to say those are two main topics really affecting AMD today. I do believe in the long-term things, or in the past year to date, the stock is up over 60%. It is kind of this AI push and a lot of the future growth for AMD. And before I take a closer look at some other topics here for AMD, if you guys are enjoying the episode, make sure to hit the thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you want to support the channel a little bit more, make sure to join the membership. I have an amazing membership for those that want to learn about the semiconductor market.
Finally, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so some other topics that have kind of come out in the past few days. We did see this article released on May 16th that AMD has planned to expand the Ryzen AI across its entire product line, but will depend on value. So this is something I've talked about in numerous AMD videos, where AMD previously announced that they have created this hardware or this integrated AI engine to add to certain of their processors. Here we can see the dedicated AI engine on the bottom right, and this is right now only going to be on one specific laptop processor. And one of my things when we're kind of thinking about that Microsoft deal, I mentioned that I believe this AI engine will eventually make its way into other processors, and that does seem to be the case, but kind of adding this extra integrated process makes chips a little bit more expensive. So AMD is trying to be smart on where and how they're going to do it in the future, but there is the potential that the AMD Ryzen AI will be integrated in other processors in AMD's kind of process line. So I think that's the great move. I think right now AI technology is still so new. So AMD is trying to just wait a bit real quick to see, is this going to add value to the consumers, and will I be able to kind of increase those prices with the value added? Because if not, we're going to have to eat up that we're going to have to eat up that cost, and it doesn't make sense if this doesn't really have too much of a future depending on how AI technology is going. So I think it's smart for AMD. I do believe this does kind of pose some great kind of potential returns for the company. Some other things that we did see is there was a YouTuber that did announce some massive leaks about AMD's Zen 5 processor, and that's both for their consumer processor, I believe, and the data center processor. So obviously it's just a lot of rumors there, a lot of leaks there. I'm not going to go over them, but it just kind of shows that, hey, there is the bullish case that AMD will continue to release new products in the upcoming quarters. Some of those products were also seem to be focused on the AI market, which is also a great thing. Just a quick reminder, AMD did share in their most recent earnings that, hey, the company has a lot of products that are going to be strong for this AI push. We do know that the MI300 is coming out later this year. We also have, obviously, like I mentioned, the AI accelerator in Ryzen 7 D40 processors, which can also be a big win, and obviously their CPU processors and some of the accelerators through the Xilinx acquisitions, and obviously their FPGAs and system on chips. So AMD is really well positioned to kind of see grow in this AI market. Now, one thing I do want to mention is, obviously, when we take a closer look at AMD in forms of current evaluations, some might say that this is crazily overpriced. We can see the PE ratio has kind of gone up to 445, where almost a year ago, or less than 6 months ago, it was kind of sitting in that 30 values, in the low mid 30s. So maybe a little bit better valuation for a growth company, I would say. Pretty impressive. And right now, things have jumped up a nice amount. I do want to say, if we take a closer look at their segment results, operating income rate was a positive for them in the client segment. The PC market has really taken quite a hit that has really hurt this company's earnings. In my opinion, and I could be completely wrong, this is more of short-term pain. In the long term, a lot of those profits are gonna come back, and I do believe we are gonna see another moment when AMD's kind of PE ratio is gonna go back down to maybe those mid to low 30 values, maybe even the high 20s. So I'm very bullish in AMD at the moment. I do believe a lot of the pain that we're seeing and this overvaluation traction right now is completely overblown, but mainly because of this short-term cycle that we are seeing in the semiconductor space. In the long term, I do believe AMD has great process. In my opinion, this is one of my biggest positions in my portfolio. With current stock prices, I personally wouldn't go and purchase a huge amount. This is something that with dollar cost average, because like I mentioned, the market here in the semiconductor space is very cyclical, is very evolving, and sometimes it gives us great buying opportunities. I don't think right now it's a great buying opportunity. I've done plenty of videos in the past year when I've talked about this being a great buying opportunity. Now for me, this is more of a dollar cost average opportunity for those that might want to get into this, but remember, there is always risk. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.